Boys, we are looking at the pinnacle reward weapon here with the Vanguard loaded question. It is a high impact fusion rifle that I'm not gonna lie, I was overlooking. Like after I saw the gameplay yesterday, I was like, not that impressed. Needless to say, boys, I have been proven wrong. Despite this being a Vanguard weapon, and it definitely is a phenomenal PvE weapon, boy is it disgusting in PvP. So let's talk about it. First up, the unique trait here is Reservoir Burst. When the battery is full, your next burst deals additional damage and causes enemies to explode on death. Now that increase in damage is pretty nice. For something like Greg, we're actually hitting 624 per bolt. With Reservoir Burst activated though, it's actually hitting 832. And that 33% is in PvE and in PvP. So we actually go from hitting 48 per bolt in PvP to 64 per bolt. Got some hefty damage there, boys. Now it also comes with auto-loading holster, ionized batteries to increase that battery size, which I actually wish it didn't do that. It also comes with this red dot 2 MOA scope. This was a scope I had on main ingredient. You probably rocked it yourself back in year 1. I don't know what it is about this scope. I just really like it. For the most part, it just seems super consistent. Now, being a high impact frame fusion, it is slow firing, high damage, and the weapon is more accurate when stationary and aiming down sights. So first up, let's break down PvP. I said yesterday that this wasn't going to be a good fusion, or I didn't think it was going to be a good fusion because ammo economy, the way it is in Crucible, you spawn them with 2 shots. What are the chances that you're going to be running around with a full magazine or more to take advantage of Reservoir Bursts? Well, when you really sit down and think about it, if you have 2 scavenger perks on for fusion rifles, you'll actually have more than a magazine after getting 2 ammo bricks. So it's actually not that difficult. And in today's gameplay, this is actually only 1 scavenger perk. Surprisingly so, it actually makes you change your playstyle a little bit. You're not just running in there mindlessly aping. You're actually taking your time, conserving your ammo, and benefiting from keeping your ammo and staying alive. Now let's talk numbers. 48 per bolt. That is what I've always liked on Arantil. Arantil is a hard-hitting fusion as well. The beautiful thing about 48 per bolt though is that in 4 bolts you can kill most guardians at 192 health. Matter of fact, at 190.6 health is 5 resilience. I don't know about you guys, I don't ever rock anything more than like 2 or 3 resilience. Maybe 4. So needless to say, you're really benefiting with these high impact fusions because they require only 4 bolts to land out of the 7 that you shoot. Now with Reservoir Bursts, it brings that damage up to 64 per bolt and goes from requiring 4 bolts to land to now only 3 at 192 health. Guys, it's disgusting. It's so disgusting that yeah, you get used to playing this playstyle. Like right now, I've got some choice words about my playstyle. I'm really not playing aggressive. I'm kind of taking my time, maneuvering myself around the map, but there's something beautiful about killing somebody in 3 bolts. Now you probably ask yourself, isn't that a little overkill? When do you actually need to kill someone in 3 bolts? Well, this is a perfect example. If I had Reservoir Burst in this scenario, would have easily killed this warlock here in 3 bolts. Outside of that, the fusion rifle on its own does what it's supposed to do. It handles close quarter to mid-range combat pretty decently. Although I will say there's a lot of Arantils I would probably take over it if I was to not take advantage of Reservoir Burst. Now before we get into the PvE portion of this video, let's talk about that AoE damage in PvP. So as you know, when Reservoir Burst lands a kill, there's an arc explosion. It's pretty significant here in PvP. So as you see, I'm landing a shot here on this Titan and it does 174 damage to the Titan next to it. Now I don't know if that tapers off. Like I don't know if the Titan was further away, it would take less damage or not. Or vice versa. If it was closer, would have taken more damage. Whatever the case, the AoE effect there is pretty nice. Just another reason there, guys, to take advantage of this weapon's trait there, even in something like PvP. Now let's talk PvE. It does some pretty decent damage, specifically against things like majors. Now I don't have a major spec on this or a boss spec or any spec of that matter. This is the weapon all on its own. So it's a significant amount of damage here. Now that arc explosion in PvE is disgusting. What's even more is if you can one-hit KO those majors, you'll always be able to take advantage of that AoE explosion. And for the most part, there's normally a bunch of ads around majors in just about every PvE activity. Now, as far as boss damage, it could have been better. But of course, in my mind, I'm also comparing this mentally to pre-nerfed Ikelos shotgun. So I don't really know how Ikelos is handling DPS right now. But I felt like the DPS could have been better, and not from a damage standpoint. Obviously, the damage here is very hefty. That rate of fire being a high impact fusion really slows down the amount of DPS you can output, which brings me to my conclusion on this weapon. Loaded question, what is it? Guys, we have a horde mode that is coming next week. During this horde mode, there will be majors that spawn alongside a ton of ads. Take this public event for instance. Look how well it does against these ads. Now, if you throw something like a major spec on this fusion to get that extra 7 or 8% damage, I don't know what it is, I think it's 7.8, you'll be one bursting these majors that spawn and simultaneously releasing that arc explosion upon every kill. Guys, I honestly think that this fusion rifle is going to be the ultimate horde mode weapon next week. It's a legendary. It frees up other options there for exotics. It has a perk there that buffs the damage by 33%. It's a high impact fusion, which to me just screams single target damage. And being a legendary weapon, we can throw on something like a major spec and essentially have the ultimate clearing weapon. Guys, that's what I think the purpose of this fusion is. Yes, it's nasty in PvP, much nastier than what I expected it to be, but I have every intentions of getting my hand on this weapon for that horde mode next week. By the way, guys, shout out to Soul Taker for letting us get on his account. He is the one that started grinding on this thing today and knocked it out for us. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.